Hi, my name's Dean Barlow and you join me on the beautiful River Soar for a spot of hemp fishing. There seems to be a stigma about hemp fishing. Some people seem to think that it's a really difficult method to crack. But with a few simple tips today, I'll show you how to get the most out of your hemp fishing on these kind of rivers. Going on to the bait that I've got today, I've got 2 tubs of hemp. This tub here is my feed hemp. That's straight out of a tin that I bought from a local tackle shop. And then this one here, this was dry hemp that I've cooked myself. This is for the hook. Also, got a few pinkies which I'm going to use to kickstart the session with some ground bait, and a few maggots as well as a change bait. One of the problems you can get with fishing these natural venues like the River Soar is actually getting into the water and getting comfortable. It's very shallow in the edge, but it does drop off quite deep there. I'm going to be fishing 14 metres of pole, so I need to be as comfortable as possible, but at the same time I need to be sat out instead of sitting up the bank. So as you can see, I've got the outriggers attached to the Octbox, which absolutely spreads the weight. I've got the rig roost attachment. All these things add extra weight to your box, but the best thing about the outrigger, it spreads all the weight, which means I'm a lot more comfortable when I'm fishing longer lengths of poles. I do like to have a couple of rigs to keep my options open. When you're fishing hemp, the fish do tend to come up and down in the water, they drop down the peg, so you have to keep in contact with the way that the fish are feeding. So like I say, I've got a couple of rigs. What I use just to make sure I can keep in touch with the way the fish are feeding. The first rig is for fishing nearer the bottom. It's a 0.8 Drennan Carp 5. Might say a carp float, but it's got a lovely 1.5mm bristle. With it being hollow as well, it sticks out like a beacon in the light in the background. So you can dot it right down to a blimp, but you can still see all the way down your peg. And that is shotted. I've got some number 9 shots from halfway down, which change to number 10s, and then number 11s right at the bottom of the rig. This is quite a heavy rig, but it means that I can be quite positive. I can lay the float in the water, I can hold back on it, so you get a nice strung out effect as it's going down. So that's that one rig there. And my other hemp rig is the same pattern of float, but this time a 0.5. Same kind of shotting pattern. Shots start halfway down, number 10s, and then down to number 11s. But with it being only half a gram, it's a lot lighter. It gives me a lot more natural fall, which is even better to try and fall these wary fish. The lighter rigs really do pay dividends when the fish are up in the upper, when the fish are feeding in the upper layers. I can fish this one off the bottom as well, so it's suspended as I'm running through, but I like to fish it on the drop so I can cover more area the way that the fish are feeding. All the hooks, just quite simple, 08 hook length and an 18B 511. So pretty simple. Feeding is key as well. You've got to keep the bait going in, not too much, like 6 to 10 grains has been the best today. I wouldn't hesitate if I started catching really well to up the feed. I believe that when the fish are feeding, they need feeding. That's how I've been brought up to fish. Feeding fish need feeding. So we've been fishing on pinkies for about an hour and we've had quite a good start to the session, catching some nice little dumpy roach with the odd decent one, which made me have a look on the hemp. A nice little dumpy roach there. That's about 4 or 5 fish I've had on the hemp now. A little bit of pike trouble, which you're always going to get in these winter sessions with a very clear river. So you just have to keep going through the motions, just keep feeding a little bit of hemp on that far line. Hopefully the pike don't bother us too much, but we're getting plenty of bites, which is always good. Best rig so far is 0.8 float and about 9 foot of water, but I've had a couple of bites on the drop, so I'm wondering, I've got a smaller float set up, a half a gram float. I won't hesitate to put that on and just go through the layers just that little bit slower, just to see if I can present it a bit better to the fish. It seems that they are coming off the bottom. So I'll give this rig another couple of chucks and then try the other rig. You will, oh, I bumped one there. So that says to me that this rig isn't quite right. So I'll just have another run through. Feeding probably about 10 grains of hemp in the same place on our mark on the far bank. And you'll find the fish will sit underneath the hemp and intercept it wherever they want to. So I've got to try and put a rig to where the fish are feeding. Sometimes you have to trick them a little bit by changing rigs. It's all part of the game to try and catch these fish. I think that was missed a bite then. Is my hemp still on? Yeah, my hemp's still on, so. One question I do get asked quite a bit is, how do I hook my hemp? There's two ways that you can hook hemp. One is the conventional way, is what we call slotting it, where you just put the bend of the hook into the crack of the hemp. And then the other way is what we call pinning it, where we make an indentation in the top of the hemp and then hook it on like a maggot. Today, the best way to do it has been by pinning it. It means I can strike and still, if I miss the bite, I still know that my bait is on the hook, so I can just lay the rig straight back in. I've been fishing at 14.5 meters. It just makes it a little bit more efficient. Well, that's the conclusion of a great session. It's been cold, but the sport's been really good. Started off fishing with pinkies while my hemp line settled. As soon as I've gone onto my hemp line, I've caught some little roach, nice little dumpy roach, but pike had been quite a bit of a problem. But I just kept going through the motions, changing my feeding patterns, and just at the end here, the fish have got a lot bigger in size, up to 8 ounces. Absolutely brilliant session.